Hello and welcome to our first of our series on Azure Sentinel. The intent of today's webcast is to give you an overview of what Azure Sentinel is. So Azure Sentinel is a SIEM solution. For those of you who do not know what a SIEM is, it's a solution that provides the ability to be able to aggregate and collect log data and make sense of that information. The intent of it is to give you visibility into what's happening inside of your network. And in my personal opinion, this is the heart of your security infrastructure. It's the heart of how you orchestrate your security solutions, because it gives you visibility as to what kind of attacks are happening inside of your environment. It also provides you information as to where your weak points are, and in addition to that, where the hot topics are. So if you have, for example, a web server, you can see the number of hits against that. If you have a firewall, you can see the number of hits against that. It's also a SOAR solution. What a SOAR solution is stands for Security Orchestration, Automation, and Response. Based on the creation of runbooks, you can automate response to events that the SIEM creates. So for an example, if your firewall is getting hit by multiple attacks from a single IP, then your SOAR solution can then say, well, let's introduce a new firewall rule that blocks all communication from this IP address. That's just a simple example. These automations are built on runbooks, so it's something that you can create. It's something that you can define and be able to, so you can customize your response. Leaving room for the future, SOAR also has the potential to be able to get into using artificial intelligence to be able to start looking at doing responses based on AI. Next page, please. Perfect. So the real benefits of Sentinel are that you know if you're under attack. You always want to know if you're under attack. My personal feeling is that the SIEM solution is more important than a lot of the edge solutions. Now, of course, that's my personal opinion. And the reason for that is I would rather know that I'm under attack and where I'm under attack than to have something on the front end that's not being monitored, and if it's breached, not know. At least I can make intelligent decisions as to what's happening. This is where Sentinel comes into play. You really want to know if you're under attack. You want to know how often you're under attack, so that you can make or design the proper countermeasures appropriately. In addition to that, it's one thing to be under attack, because if you've got a firewall, you've actually watched your firewall logs, there's constant barrage of individuals trying to, or robots for that matter, trying to penetrate your firewall, trying to penetrate your FTP site. FTP is a huge one. If you've got a website, that's another one. So you want to know if any of these potential attacks have produced a breach, because now you have to take action. So it's imperative that you understand that, and that's where Sentinel comes into play, because you can easily identify if you have been breached and the extent of your breach. As I was alluding to earlier, you want to understand your attack surfaces. You want to understand the volume of attempted exploitation. It's imperative for you to know this, because if you need to introduce additional countermeasures or redesign so that you shore up this weak point or this heavily attacked point, you have the information to do that. And again, with the SOAR solution, you can automatically introduce countermeasures once a trigger or a threshold has been reached. So after this, I'm going to, or actually George, who's on the line right at this point in time with me, is going to give you a demo of what Sentinel looks like from a usage perspective. George, take it away, please.
Perfect, thank you, Mark. So as Mark already stated, Azure Sentinel is a SIEM and SOAR solution. Terms and acronyms can get convoluted in the ever-growing security marketplace today. and SIEM and SOAR can be used interchangeably, which is wrong in this case. So although SIEM and SOAR work, complement each other, they are not the same thing. Coupled together, Microsoft brings us the solution called Azure Sentinel. Let's take a look at how Azure Sentinel works. To start, this is the overview page. So Azure Sentinel works by correlating security logs and signals from all sources across applications, services, infrastructure, networks, and users. Now, whether they reside on premises, in Azure, or any other cloud platform, Sentinel can connect to those platforms as well. For example, here in the overview dashboard, Sentinel can give us a bird's eye view of events going on in the environment. You can see how many events were collected, the number of incidents, and their status, as well as trends across events and alerts. So Sentinel also leverages AI capabilities to detect anomalies in events from the different sources. All right, so to get started, you need to connect your security sources. In the data connectors page, there are a number of connectors for Microsoft solutions that are available out of the box, as well as a broad selection of built-in connectors for non-Microsoft solutions. Now let's take a look at the Azure Active Directory connector as an example. Now to connect to Azure AD with Sentinel, you have to meet the prerequisites listed above. Once you do, it's as simple as checking a couple of boxes and clicking Apply Changes, and that's it. Sentinel will now ingest logs from Azure AD into the Log Analytics workspace that Sentinel sits on, and we'll be able to query those logs to generate relevant information. Now, with most connectors, sample workbooks are provided to help you visualize the logs in a graphical layout. You can take advantage of the built-in workbooks, or you can create custom workbooks based on your requirements. We will take a look at the custom workbooks in just a bit. Let's just take a look at a sample workbook provided related to the Azure AD sign-in logs. So in this case, we start off by the filter. We can select the time range that we're looking through, the applications, or filter by a user. And based on this information, we're presented with a graphical representation of all the Kusto queries, or all the queries that we have run, to be able to see this information visually. For example, here you can see all total number of sign-ins in the past 14 days. How many have failed, how many were success, how many were pending user action. All the sign-ins by location, so from Canada, United States, Vietnam, Brazil. The recent sign-in details, so successful, failures, etc. Sign-ins by device, so all the devices that are connecting to the tenant. Conditional access results, how many require MFA, how many are disabled, so on and so forth. Now, as a security analyst, once the data sources are connected, you can start analyzing your data with a query language called Kusto Query Language, or KQL. KQL allows you to create advanced and complex queries in just a few lines. Let's run a simple query to monitor anomalies in sign-in logs. So the query would be sign-in logs, summarize count by time generated in the past hour. All right, so here I'm analyzing the number of logs in the last 24 hours. Let's take a look at the chart format of this result. So here you can see the spike shown points to anomalies found by the service. This could lead you to investigate further of the actions that took place at this specific time. If all the other logins were between 300 and 10, 11 logins per day, this one shows as 659 at around 5 a.m. this morning. So this is an anomaly that we have to investigate. What could have happened at this time? Where are all these sign-in logs generated from? So this can help us analyze the data that's already presented to us in a visual representation, just by writing a very simple query. Now, in order to generate incidents, analytic rules have to be created. This determines what could be a potential security threat. We can take advantage of the built-in rules or create our own using KQL. Now, when the criteria of any of these rules are met, Sentinel will generate an incident with a severity level chosen by the rule. And you can see here all these analytic rules created. Some of them are built in, some of them are custom made. Now, an incident is generated by an alert. And these can come from several sources, such as security solutions that you're connected to Sentinel, correlation rules that you've set up to detect specific activities, or anomalies tagged by machine learning models. If we take this analytic rule or this incident as an example, we can use the investigation tool to understand the scope and identify the root cause of a potential security threat. Now in this graph, we can see all the entities associated with the alert, from the user to the IP address to specific servers or endpoints if that's what the alert relates to. Now we can even explore further by filtering all the alerts related to this specific incident. So if we are to take a look at Sentinel test the user, there are 312 related alerts to this user. So we can click on that and even expand this view even more to try and correlate where are all these alerts coming from. And then you can see here, we have 3 different alerts that popped up. One of them is multiple password reset. Another one is login from George's IP. And then 310 other ones logging in from George's IP. So that is one of the analytics rules that was created. If any of the users is to sign in using a specific IP address, it would generate an alert and we would have to action that alert. We also have a timeline view. So we can see all the alerts for this specific incident and in a chronological order. What happened first, second, so on and so forth. Now, having all this information is great, but automating it is even better. Now, beyond this investigation, we can also build and run playbooks to automate security operations against a given alert. Playbooks can be triggered on demand for a given alert, or you can configure real-time automation while creating your analytic rules. Playbooks are created using logic apps. Now let's take a look at some of the playbooks we've created. Now for this specific incident, I can run any of these playbooks that we've created. Let's take a look at some of them. So to start, let's say I want to revoke their AD sign-in sessions. When I run this playbook, it's going to run against that alert. And let's take a look at what it has done. So in the overview section of this playbook, you can see the history of this playbook and the duration of how long it took to run. So this is the one that we just ran. If we click on it, we can see the process that it took to complete the playbook. All right, so in this case, it's revoking the AD sign-ins using Graph API. And the final step of this playbook is to send an email with this subject line, with this body, telling us that this user was involved in a security incident and we revoked their sessions. So if we take a look at our email, there it is. That's the email that came in just by the playbook that generated, and this user's sign-in sessions were revoked. So they would have to re-sign in, re-authenticate across all their applications. Another playbook that we can run is to block the user from signing in. Another one we can do is reset their password. And they all have a similar outcome. So if we're going to block the user from signing in and we run that, let's take a look at what it does. So it ran in 2.15 seconds. If we expand on that, we can see that the action taken here under update user was to block the user from signing in. So account enabled equals false. And it also sends an email to our SOC telling us details about this alert. So if we go back to our email, there it is. So we can customize the template, the body, the email, even an HTML format to our liking. In this case, there's a lot of variables, such as the name of the alert, the description, the time it was generated, severity, so on and so forth. This is fully customizable. So the use cases are endless in what you can do with playbooks. And finally, you can take a more proactive measure to preempt threats too. In the hunting page, you can find pre-built queries to start hunting for new anomalies and security threats across your organization logs. So in this case, there are a lot of pre-built queries generated by Microsoft that we can run. So we can run all queries at the same time to see which ones would actually give us a result, and then that would lead to us investigating even further. So in this case, let's just take the first one as an example. There are 39 results for consent to application discovery. If we click on the View Results button at the bottom, it's going to take us back to the Log Analytics workspace where it runs the query and generates the results for us in a readable format. And this tells us the user account, the IP address, the target resource name, timestamp, so on and so forth. And that would lead us to investigate even further, or whether we should allow people to consent to applications or not. And that is an overview of Sentinel and how it works. Back to you, Mark.
That was awesome, George. Thank you very much.
Not a problem.
So hopefully that this presentation helped you to understand the benefits of Sentinel and why you should have a SIM solution within inside of your environment. So as a next step, I would like you to know that ProServe IT always has various initiatives on. We always have the ability to work with you as far as deploying Sentinel, configuring, or at least in general talking about it. If you want to reach out to us at cloud@proserveit.com, we'd be happy to talk to you, answer any questions you may have, and maybe even talk about right sizing the solution for you. I would also like to mention that at our next webcast, which will be in a couple of weeks with George and I, it will be based on a solution that we have in place called Mailbox Guardians. It's a solution that we have that is designed to harden your Office 365 environment. And with that, I will bid you a good day and thank you for watching.